Hi, this is Isabel Letzler. So today I want to talk about time management. This is something that a lot of people are struggling with. It's becoming more and more difficult nowadays to have multiple activities and lots of things going on and to be efficient. So I wanted to give you my tips on how to deal with this. So the first tip I want to give you is to use some methods that are already existing out there. I just shared recently an app. I will post the link below. Apparently, it tracks the time that you're spending on each task. I have a more old-fashioned way. I would really advise to use the Stephen Covey method. This is something I've used for many years. And what it does is basically to put some time slots in your calendar of different tasks. So each week, for example, or even each day, you would go in your agenda and say, okay, for this hour to this hour, I will work on this task. So I have some time slots like this, whether it's 1 hour, half a day, where I'm only focused on delivering a specific task, and then I move to another one. So it kind of saves your agenda, because in this way, basically no one else is going to impede on this time slot. So for example, if you put lunch during 12 to 2, for example, and it's in your agenda, especially if you work for big companies where people can see each other's agendas, they will see the time is booked. So they won't necessarily dominate your agenda. This is usually something people struggle with, is other people impeding on their agenda. So you need to become the master of your time and not let everybody else pitch into it. So you need to have some time dedicated to doing different tasks and not answer phone calls, not answer email, not being available for other people. Probably it's difficult at the beginning, especially if you're someone who's always replying to everybody immediately. This is something that I had to struggle with as well. You need to be very disciplined basically with this method. The other method I use is the priority one. This is something that I've used for many years as well. It came from our CEO when we were extremely busy. Basically, we had a label in our email that was P1, and that was something we had to drop everything else to focus on that. So it's very similar to the Stephen Covey method in the sense that you have to focus basically. So whether it's time slots allocated, whether it's a number one priority you need to work on and not look at everybody else. So that's it. That's the priority one. And the third technical tool I use is basically checklists. So I always have checklists, and then I mark each time I finish a task so that I know I'm moving forward. It's going to be rare where you fill in your whole checklist, but at least if you have some method, again, I think it goes back to discipline. You need to have a method. You need to have something that keeps you grounded, but you're not going to succeed in achieving everything immediately, especially if you're managing different businesses or you have the family and business. You need to really be disciplined and not let anybody else tell you what your time should be allocated to. So again, people calling you, whether it's personal or professional, you're not available, and that's it, but you need to get people so trained to respect your agenda. So this is also interpersonal skills and communication. Number two, in terms of time management, is to be able to get help around you when needed. So for example, in my previous jobs that I had in the companies that I worked with, I would look at my task sometimes and think, well, why am I doing this task when there's somebody else in the department next to me that's actually doing already 90% of it? Why am I given this 10% of it when it's not logical? This person should be doing the whole thing until the end. So there's things like this when you're an employee that you do because the person before you did it, and it's historical that the person in this position is doing this. When you start a job, my advice would be look at all the tasks that you do, what makes sense in your job, what's high value basically, and what are some of the tasks that either could be eliminated altogether because they're not bringing any value to anybody, they're just redundant. Maybe you're doing something else that's actually a copy or a double, this other task, you're doing double the same thing. Or is it something somebody else in another department is more qualified, or it just makes more sense for them to do? So this will also help your time management. And tip number three is basically to start asking for help rather than spending time trying to find the solution yourself. And I have this happen to me many days when I would just go around in circle trying to find the solution myself, when there was someone next door that already knew because they're the expert in-house. And the advantage if you work for a company is that you have those resources. Sometimes when you're doing your own business, you don't have people around you that can answer those questions because maybe you're only a solopreneur, or you have people but they're not basically qualified to help you. But if you're in a business, usually you would have the marketing expert, the finance expert in-house, etc. So it's easier to go to these people, get the answer, and move in your day than to spend too much time trying to find the answer when you're not the expert. So just remember, what is your expertise? What are you hired to do? So if you're a marketer, for example, and your job is to market and you have a finance question, my advice would be don't sit on it. Don't try to answer it, but go to the finance person, the most qualified to answer that question. So I hope this was helpful. And if you have some comments, feel free to post below. Thank you.